Hi, my name is Michael Ruppel. I'm an instructional coach here at Springfield High School. And today I'm going to be talking to the community just a little bit about our school's shift to proficiency-based learning and how we think that's going to help us create more capable cosmopolitans when they leave us at graduation. So you may, as a family member or a community member, have already heard a little bit about this shift, and there may be lots of new terms to you. You may have heard about the use of a 4-point scale versus a 100-point scale. You may have heard about the use of our PRIDE rubric or teachers using learning targets in their classrooms. And while these are all really important components, I really want to take a minute to step back today and really talk about why we're shifting to proficiency-based learning and what that shift might mean for students. So when we talk about proficiency-based learning, we always want to start with the why. And the first and most important reason that we'll go through is that proficiency-based learning is going to help our students build confidence and receive credit for what they know how to do. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we believe about learning and how students learn. We'll start by thinking about some of our own experiences as a learner. As you think about a learning experience you've had, I want you to reflect on a few things. So the first is, how did it feel? How did the learning feel? What was your emotional state in learning how to do this new thing? Then think about what you did. What steps did you take to learn a new idea or to take in that learning? And the last is, I'm guessing that in that learning, you had some challenges that came about. And I want you to think about how you overcame those challenges. How did others help you? Take a minute to think about these three questions. So when we learn, there's some common pieces that are there, some common elements of learning. And I'm guessing that you experience some or all of them in the process. And what we're going to see is that some of our traditional ways of grading students can make some of these valuable pieces of learning experiences really difficult for kids. So I'm guessing that the learning for you involved failure, right? So we don't want our students to be punished for the failure and the struggles early on when they ultimately have learned something. I'm guessing that the learning involves some feedback or some coaching from an expert, right? In order to learn it, you weren't able to just be shown something once and then expected to be a master. You had to get that feedback in your learning process. Guessing that it also involved lots of practice, right? Lots of trial and error as you work through your learning. And the last thing, and you know, this one is pretty common too, I'm guessing that the learning, even to learn something that you thought was really valuable, involved a lot of frustration or anxiety. I'm going to talk a little bit about a learning experience that I had. You can see a picture of me and how I eventually became successful at rock climbing. And I think this experience is pretty typical of how all people learn something new. So you'll notice that initially, I was struggling, right? I kept falling down when I was learning to rock climb. I got some feedback, right? I got some help from somebody who knew a little bit more than me. And then I tried again and I fell again, right? But with feedback, instruction, lots of practice, I moved a little bit higher up on the mountain. Okay. I still fell down. And with this continuous cycle of practice, feedback, and practice, I finally got to a point where I was an expert. That's not really a picture of me, but and this is kind of the way that we think about proficiency-based learning. You can kind of think of this idea of practice and relearning and getting quizzed and practicing and getting feedback and fixing your mistakes as a really common thing that we want all our students to experience in their time here. And we want them by the end to be here in the green where they demonstrate mastery. But in traditional grading systems, sometimes that failure gets punished. So we're going to look at a traditional learning trajectory where a student really struggles early on, then does a little bit better. And by the third, fourth, fifth attempts, this student is clearly shown mastery and is clearly close to an expert in this thing. But in a traditional grade where we average all of this together, the student has failed. So in a proficiency-based learning system, we're going to give students credit, for that attempt 4, the attempt 5, where they really get to mastery and not punish them for the challenges that happen early on. The second reason why we're moving to a proficiency-based learning system is because we're going to be able to be more precise in our tracking, and our reports to families, students, and to each other are going to be more accurate, specific, and informative. So let's look at a traditional grading policy and a traditional report card. So over here on the left is a common grading policy that you might see, where the different categories are given different weights. So homework is given some weight, tests are given some weight, attendance is given some weight. And the challenge here is that a grading policy like this doesn't tell us what a student has learned. It only tells us the given score on a test or a quiz. It doesn't help us see exactly what the student has mastered. And then over on the right, we're going to see what is a pretty traditional report card where each class is given an overall grade. So for example, this student got a B in social studies, but we don't really know what that means. Does it mean that the student mastered a lot of the content but missed a few assignments, or that the student is really struggling but working really hard, or that there's one piece that they're missing? So a traditional report card isn't as informative as we'd like it to be. So in a proficiency-based learning system, you're going to see a very different kind of report card. Students are given grades based on particular learning targets, right? Certain pieces of evidence. In the example above, students are graded based on learning targets rather than assignment categories. For example, this student has earned a 4, right, above proficient on identifying the smallest building block of matter and describing its substructure. So if a student is struggling with a particular area, that we're able to see exactly what that student needs to do to move forward versus having to kind of guess. Another important feature, and this is kind of towards the bottom, is that when we report out, we're able to separate academic performance, their understanding of skills and concepts, and their non-academic performance, which includes things like turning assignments in on time, being respectful, participating in the lesson, and really some other things that we think are really important but are separate from academics. So these are called our pride standards. And we want to be able to give students and families good feedback on those targets as well. So our reporting will still summarize that overall level of achievement, right? This student has received a 3.5 in the course, but parents and teachers can also get more detailed information about how a student's doing. And then the last piece, and this one is a real passion of mine, is that when we are working in a proficiency-based system, we're going to be able to give students a lot of choice in what they're learning. So in a traditional system, students have required courses that they need to take. The graduation is based on credits rather than the learning that occurs. In a proficiency-based system, we're going to graduate students based on what they've learned. We have about 30 proficiencies that all students will meet, and now we're able to create many different learning experiences that students can take to achieve those proficiencies. So rather than have to do everything through a traditional course, students are going to be able to work to proficiency in things like work-based learning and courses over at our tech center, a new program that we're launching called Innovation Labs that offers some more project-based learning experiences, or independent study where they design their own learning. And in addition to the options I just outlined, teachers and students can work together to develop a learning experience that will help them meet proficiency. So the goal here is that we want students to be able to learn and demonstrate their learning in the environment that works best for them. So obviously, we could spend a lot more time talking about proficiency-based learning, and there's going to be lots more pieces that are shared. But if you want to learn more, I'll leave these links up here. There's the Vermont Agency of Education has a lot of information. You can contact me or our principal, Ms. Hathorn, to ask questions or to set up a meeting. Or if you want to work directly with your student's counselor, contact our registrar, Marie Gray. So we look forward to lots more dialogue on this, and we're really excited about the shift, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.